Hi, and thank you for watching Targeted West. This is DJ Chris. It is show number 134, and it is the 13th of October, 2024. Tonight we have Jax and David Rubel with us to talk about, this time, V2K, the V2K avoidance and other various things you can do to help yourself with that. Not just talking about the Cyber Shield, of course. And then Jax will come on and talk about her experience with another technology that's similar to it. But for now, we'll talk about V2K. Anyway, the opinions of my guests are that of their own and not that of Targeted West or DJ Chris. We're a peaceful Fourth Industrial Revolution technology group that meets as a work group every Sunday, and this is our call. If you're watching me on your favorite platform, I appreciate it. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Anyway, without further ado, David Rubel, are you in the house? Come on in.
Hey, thanks for having me on again, Chris.
So you were wanting to talk about V2K and how to avoid it and giving tips on that. You are working on a module for that and possibly a side technology, I think. But you don't want to go into that yet. You want to talk about the V2K itself and how to just avoid it and how to get through your life. One of the things you told people to try doing is watching TV, and I thought in my mind that watching TV is bad for you, but I've actually gone back to it, and it actually helps. So, David, thank you for that advice. What more advice do you have about V2K?
Sure. So, and that is an important thing for people, what you just mentioned, to realize. Because I did want to just kind of iterate a little bit more on that. One of the strongest things that I recommend to people to help them with their V2K is to get in TV time. It's possible other activities that you could invest your focus that heavily into could have, the same kind of impact. But to date, I haven't necessarily seen that, except maybe sometimes some of these conference calls I know can have some of the same effect for people, but sitting down and getting some daily TV time in seems to be one of the most significant single things that you can do that will really impact, how your V2K affects you. And the reason for that is past a certain point, you're able to regain control over what you choose to focus on, and being able to watch a movie, especially one that you can get really engrossed in and you have to follow along to understand what's going on. It makes it really easy for you to hold your focus on that. And when you're in control of what you focus on, it actually breaks a lot of the different things that they might attempt to be doing to you. It sounds like a really dumb thing to do. It's like, oh my God, how could sitting down and watching a movie help? But it really does. And if you take that time out of your day every day to sit down and have your TV time, it will make an impact. And then when you're done with it, the important thing to do then is as you re-strengthen your ability to maintain control of what you focus on, if you find any activities similar to TV time that helps you with controlling your focus, then you make sure.
Including YouTube. I watch YouTube a lot. Does that help?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're really engrossed in it and really focused in it, and when you're really engrossed in something, because the V2K and everything else start to fall off. It starts to become non-existent. It doesn't exist in your world anymore.
I watch people fixing cars. For some reason, that soothes me, because I used to watch people fixing my dad's old cars. So, yeah, whatever works. I agree, David. So YouTube works. Yeah. TV, movie always helps me train into the theme of the movie and get out of it. Sometimes, though, I always figure out the shows, but that's okay.
Right, and then as you have control of your focus, or you do some of those exercises like that to help you regain control of your focus, then it's just important. It's important to understand, that your focus and your ability to control it is one of the single most important things to you. And any ability you have over controlling your focus, you want to make sure then that you maintain control over it. So if you do get V2K, if you get any kind of auditory effects at all, make sure when you notice it that you're, you want to immediately redirect your focus to something else. You want to learn to treat V2K as you strengthen your focus. Sorry, excuse me. Choking on some of my own spit there. As you learn to get control back over it again, it's important. You want to make sure you're re-diverting your focus. So treat it like, if you're at work, you've got coworkers talking around you, or you're in a public place and people are talking around you, but you actually don't want to listen. So, there's times where everybody's a little bit nosy and tries to listen in on that conversation that doesn't involve them. Everybody's guilty of that. But there's a lot of times where we try to ignore it because, again, it involves our focus. We have a task that we're trying to perform, something we're trying to do, and if we stop paying attention to what we're doing and we start paying attention to something going on around us, then we lose our focus, and that becomes our focus, and we're no longer able to concentrate on what it is that we have to do. And they really try to exploit the fact that sometimes you would listen to what's going on around you, and when that takes place, it's I don't even have to go over how disruptive of an effect that has on people. And the worst part is if you're paying attention to it, then they're going to take advantage of that even more. So the more you pay attention to V2K, the more that they're going to use it. If you catch yourself trying to listen to it when you could be doing something else, you catch yourself wanting to hear or even worse, if they're being quiet with it and you're forcing yourself to struggle even a little bit to listen to it. That's a very bad scenario. You do not want to go along with any kind of V2K at all. You want to avoid the interaction, and the best way to avoid the interaction is to try to ignore it completely.
I agree. 22 years I've been listening to it, and they've never told me the truth yet.
Right. And so, and that's an important thing to mention because we want to talk about, where the V2K is kind of the topic tonight, and there's really, it's really a lot more involved than everybody might be thinking about in their lives, and how they've got to handle it and how they've got to deal with it and what's really going on with it. And that's one of the important concepts of why you want to work to maintain control of your focus, why you don't want to accidentally give in and feed your focus over to the V2K, which in turn they can take control of it past a certain point. So, if you're voluntarily listening, they're going to be conditioning you to keep listening. So it's going to make it harder for you not to listen when you are actually trying to pay attention to something, do something important, have a conversation with somebody, and the V2K starts getting in the way. And you can't do nothing about it, and it just overwhelms you and takes control of what you're able to hear, what you're able to think about. Part of that is the byproduct of actually listening to it and interacting with it too much. The most important reason to not interact is what DJ Chris just said. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're not going to tell you anything useful. If by some random fluke or chance they tell you something that actually is true, it's all going to be just a ploy in one of those moments where that nothing truthful comes out of V2K. it's all a trick. Even if even if you catch yourself in that moment where one time out of 1,000 they're saying something that you 100% know for a fact is the truth, you still have to treat it like it's a lie. You still have to ignore it. You don't want to accept it. You don't want to validate it. It does not do you any good. Everything is a trick designed to get you to pay attention to it, and even better, even more optimally, if you can interact with it. And again, there's a lot of conditioning that's taking place when this stuff is happening, and the more you're feeding into it, you're making that. You're first off, you're making that conditioning possible by creating the circumstances that conditioning can take place around. And it's that leads into a cycle, and cycles then are reinforced and repeated. So again, yeah, I know nobody's a stranger to what I'm saying as far as you find your life in repeat. You find your V2K in a loop at times. It's the same stuff day in and day out, all day long, every day. And it's just part of that cycle. It's part of that loop that's being built up, reinforced, and conditioned into you to make your opposition more difficult. So, it's really important that you really, if you don't already have the mindset, you really need to change your mindset about if you think V2K is going to say anything at all that's truthful or useful to you. The fact of the matter is, nobody in it is trying to help you. Don't be convinced otherwise. Again, it's just a trick to get you to intentionally invest your focus into what it is they're doing. The moment that you're willing to do that, it's all going to go sour again. Yeah, so everything is just a trick with this. Now, interestingly, it gets a little bit more dangerous than just the V2K. So there's more to the technology than just being able to transmit audio. There's actually a lot of Chinese and Russian research out there that, I know a lot of us we're kind of limited to reading stuff in English, or we're limited to reading stuff in the language of, of our nationality, the country we're from. So for a lot of people it is English, but we do have people from all around the world. But I think as far as majorities go, I know most of us that are English speaking, I don't think we generally interact so much with people who are mostly Chinese speaking. There are some, but there's not a lot of that interaction. The same thing with with Russians, people from there. So being able to talk to some of the other people that are like us, who are out trying to learn as much as we can credibly and trying to make an impact. It's important that if we're not actually able to find some of this research and be able to read it and understand it because it's in a language we don't understand. Thankfully, technology is getting to the point now where we have some of this AI software and other services that can actually go out and find this research for us and be able to translate it and be able to, digest it and make it understandable to those of us that, don't know that language. And what I found was kind of surprising. In some of my latest research, what I've learned is China and Russia have done quite a bit of research, and they've been a little bit forthcoming. They've been more forthcoming with some of their research than the U.S. or even, some of the European countries have been with their research. And one of the interesting pieces of information that I found out of it is that they've done research as far as the weaponization of the Frey effect. And I don't mean, as far as the form that they're using it now, they're using it for psychological warfare, but it is a little bit more devastating than that. We do know that, but it is actually a weapon, just like a DEW. So they can use misconfigurations in the V2K, and they can just tune it improperly, and then they can do something like turn a hum or a vibration sound into a weapon. That so they can actually impart physical effects on you. They can impart neurological effects with it as well. So some of the effects of the Fray effect equipment, the V2K equipment being used as a weapon is going to be, a lot of disorientation, a lot of confusion, a lot of memory problems. Uh, there's going to be a lot of physical issues. So you're going to get a lot of stress response where you've got muscles tightening, you've got problems in the abdominal area, you have the feelings like you're being electrified or like you're vibrating. And I think, I hear a lot of people that they complain about hearing things that are vibrating and humming. And, it's possible, without properly testing and checking to know for sure. I can't say with anything with 100% authority, but I would be more willing to bet in most of those cases there isn't actually a piece of real equipment that's humming. What you're actually seeing is the Fray effect equipment being used with a frequency that you would equate audibly to a hum, and it's being run in a misconfigured way, meaning too powerful, and that humming, it creates almost a vibration going through your whole body. So it can have a host of physical effects. So in understanding that they also weaponize the same equipment that's talking to you, and all they got to do is just, turn a knob up essentially, and every word they say or every sound they make is all of a sudden a weapon that can harm you. That becomes even more important to know that when we talk about, training yourself and protecting yourself from V2K and from those interactions to make sure you're not focusing on it, because a lot of those attacks will generally build up, and if you're not participating in the attack to some degree, meaning, you're paying attention to it, you're focusing on what's happening, then a lot of it never gets the chance to really build up and escalate. And so that that was one of the big key things that I wanted to kind of point out to people, because I haven't really heard anybody talking about the actual weaponization of the V2K equipment itself. I think most people just kind of generally assume, they've got different pieces of equipment for different kinds of attacks in some instances, and that is true, but it's interesting to learn, and it's kind of as I've felt all along, that in some cases, a lot of these attacks can take place through one simple piece of equipment. So the equipment that they use to do V2K can actually perpetrate a lot of different attacks against people, and it doesn't have to be a separate piece of equipment. So again, knowing this means that protection from V2K is actually protection from some of the physical attacks as well. So going forward, I think it's important, that those of us in the community that are working on tactics or technology to help work against and counter V2K, it's really important, because the more we can do against the V2K alone, we can actually prevent attacks as well. So it's more than just stopping somebody talking to you. We can actually stop quite a bit. So, like, as far as myself, V2K is an area where I'm getting a little bit heavier into my active research right now. So it's wonderful having all these tools that we have today to be able to do more research than we were able to do before, and it's really kind of opening some doors up for us to be able to do something about it. It's unfortunate that there's not a lot of U.S.-based research or European-based research on it, but anybody else who's out there working on solutions, I implore you, put an AI to work for you that can go out and do research and have it start doing some research in foreign languages, foreign countries, and what you'll run into the same thing that I've run into, which is that we actually have a lot more valid, useful, scientifically credible information available than it seemed like. Um, getting information from the community is one thing, but getting it from a scientific source that's been peer reviewed and can be repeated scientifically and obtain the result is the kind of information that we should be working off of. So we actually have a whole we have this big ocean of additional resources that are now becoming available to us that language barrier isn't going to prevent us from anymore. And excuse me. So interestingly enough, some of sorry about that. Interestingly enough, some of this new research that I've been coming across, as Chris had mentioned a little bit, that I was working on some new modules. That's kind of what's coming into play with those new modules is we have this great, Russian and Chinese research where they're basically outlining for us what the optimal frequencies are. They're actually going and I've got some charts, and I can make this available through some of the people I know here at some point after the show. But they've actually got charts where they went out and tested different frequencies, tested different frequency ranges. They've tested them at different power levels, and they've actually documented what frequencies and what power levels cause the different fray effects and what effects they're causing, whether it's just pops and clicks, or whether it's hums, or whether it's tones. And again, this is actually credible research this time. I've seen some stuff before that some people have passed around in the community, and some of it's just, I don't know where the information came from because there's no citation of any sources of information on it. But I've done testing against some of that stuff in the past, and it was pretty much useless. It didn't really seem to mean anything. It didn't really seem to correlate to anything. It seems like it, just information somebody tossed together, maybe misunderstood from something else. But this new information actually came from people who were doing research for foreign militaries. So, we know where the information came from. We have a valid source for it, and the results are repeatable. So we should look at things like that as credible. So that's been a great asset as far as helping me to start to understand, what frequencies is it that we really need to be concerned with? What are the ones that are most dangerous as far as physical effects? What are the ones that are most overt when it comes to audible effects? Like, for example, around 800 megahertz, just for people's awareness, around 800 megahertz is extremely optimal for vocalization, for somebody for signals that they want to transmit where somebody's actually going to be speaking. It's not the only one. There's also 1.3, there's 2.4, but 800 seems to be one of the strongest, one of the best carriers. So, being able to find good information like that is going to be amazing for the community. And additionally, they've actually got some different research out there on some of the modulation as well. So we haven't seen a lot necessarily on that other than, some of the European fray effect research that we've seen. They discuss, that modulation is used, but there's not a lot of information on that. But amazingly, out of the Russian and the Chinese research, they actually discuss how, it's possible to be done through a few different ways. And actually, AM modulation is one of the potential candidates that can be used. So I think pulse width modulation is what I think a lot of people just kind of assumed and thought it was. But there's actually better candidates for that, and there's more than one. So it's going to be really interesting delving into more of this research. And anybody out there who, is making an honest effort into this kind of research, who wants to try to work at it at this level, I mean, I would implore you to feel free to reach out to me, and we can definitely discuss it. Somebody who's on the right level, I would love to be able to have them involved in some kind of way, but I do want the rest of the community to know that this research is out there, and we should start utilizing the resources that we have available to start looking into it. And I think that we'll be able to make some more breakthroughs because I mean, it's night and day how much of a difference for the amount of research there is if we're only looking in English. Um, but yeah, so Chris, do you have anything you want to say at this point? I feel like I've been rambling a little bit for a while, so I just figured
No,
I'd check in with you.
that's okay. Yeah, so I've been suffering with the telepathy for 22 years, and I actually wrote a book on synthetic telepathy that's very popular on Amazon. So I'd be more than willing to work with you on B2K research in the future. That would be fine. And yeah, I have been at this call for 3 years, and our main focus is B2K and the dreams also.
So that's interesting. So I mean, as far as from your take, because obviously I have my perspective and my experience, and that differs from yours. And you've had a focus on this for a while. Um, have you come across a lot of people who have discussed Chinese or Russian or any research for that matter that is military level research, but comes
I
from
have not had, no, it's all been US
no.
based, maybe Europe.
So that's what I'm saying. I think it's important for those of us out here working on it to realize we're at that point now with technology and the internet where the rest of that is open to us now. And yeah, that's just kind of solidifying to me that that's just the right message to be sending out. Guys, we have a lot more research out there than we thought we had, and it's really good research. I've actually used some of it already to develop some new modules for the cyber shield that I make, and some of them, they've been having phenomenal results for some of the users. It's really been life changing. Again, everybody's affected differently by the technology. Everybody has different needs, but the ones who this new stuff's helping, it's amazing. One of them, she is on me about. She wants to actually name this new mode that I've come up with through some of through some of the Chinese and Russian research, and she wanted to call it like the scrambler mode or something like that. I'd have to look up again what it was she said, but it like completely wipes her B2K out. As long as we keep her updated every few days, she's been going without B2K, and I've had some of the others saying the same result. I know it's not doesn't wipe it out for everybody, but I mean it's just amazing that that was normally a result that I mostly used to see for myself back in the early days when I first started developing my equipment, to be able to come up with some different strategies that would actually completely wipe the V2K out, and then they'd find a way around it, and then it wouldn't work anymore. God knows anybody who's ever worked on a tech solution and been even moderately successful knows what I'm talking about. But this new stuff seems to be, offering better strategies to be developed. And not only that, but it was kind of amazing seeing some of the things that I've done with my equipment, some of the modules that I've already built and been using for a while. I saw it confirmed in some of the Chinese research. So, when I was looking up, okay, what research do they have for doing this? What research do they have for doing that? And they literally came up with the same strategies and the same numbers that I did, which was, and I came up with mine completely independent of their research. It was all through my initial research into everything when I first started that I came up with some of those numbers. So, that was helping for me to confirm that, okay, these guys are really working on this kind of research. Another really cool thing I found is that China, one of their leading technologies for protection against these kind of technologies, against the B2K and the DWs, they've essentially built the same equipment that I have, and they're using the same type of effects that I'm using as far as their solution that they're building. So I don't know which came first, as far as the chicken or the egg. I don't know if I beat the punchline or not, but it is kind of interesting, being able to go out there and find all this Chinese research and to see, like, oh my gosh, they built a cyber shield, and their cyber shield operates the same exact way mine does. It's based off the same science. So, at least on that front, it's kind of nice to see that confirmation that some of the modules I've developed, as well as the hardware, is that somebody else, at the military level, is doing the same thing and validating the work. That's their top solution right now, is essentially the same thing I've built. So that's one of the cool things to learn out of this research. But anyway, I don't want to go on too much more about that. I think I've kind of highlighted, the importance of what's out there, and that we have a lot more available.
I think you did a good job. Well, I'll tell you about the truth that these people say in your heads. It's all CIA-based Kubark rhetoric and scripts, part of their tradecraft, and they just apply it to the remote attacks on people. I call my technology the weapon of mass distraction, and that's all I'll give them credit for. And that's all they can do to me, is distract me. But, in my case, that doesn't cause any problems. But if I were operating equipment or doing something important, that could be quite dangerous. And just the dreams alone are enough to cause some people, especially indigenous people, to move out of the area because they're scared that demons and such are coming. And people are very superstitious when they get voices and dreams. And so it's important that we teach people and let them know that this is synthetic and not organic, and that we have to work together to get a solution, because that's the only way it's going to work. And having the Chinese and Russians technology notes is important. Using ChatGPT or whatever, you can convert the research, if you're doing it, into English language, right? So I can do it.
Very, very powerful tool. Yeah, anybody can do it right now. I know, a lot of people like to read this scientific information, and they may not necessarily have the background that one needs to understand any of it, but people still like to read it. And, it's available to the masses. So right now they've got a setup where you can use ChatGPT a little bit for free. If you go to the website, it's just chatgpt.com, and they'll let you get so many dialogues for free, and you could probably, ask it enough questions to get some useful information out of it before it kind of cuts you off. But if you're working with an AI or any AI like that, you want to make sure that you're just specific in your instructions to it. So if you're...
I do that. The less words, the more it does for you, it seems. The more you feed it, the less accurate it is. I use ChatGPT too, and I use it for my Substack account. If I'm not feeling well, I have the AI help me with an article.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can use the AI tools for. And you're right, to be concise. If you don't give it too much, don't give it too big of a query. You could accidentally confuse it a little and get the wrong results. But do be specific. Like if you would like to, have here's an example of a specific dialogue. You could ask it, but you could say, I would like a summary of all the research you can find on the Frey effect and human experimentation from Russian military research. And that is kind of a limited response, because some people might try to put it into a lot more words than that. but you just kind of want to keep it short and simple as you can, but make sure you outline the requirements you have in it. Okay, it's coming from a foreign country, it's coming from a foreign language, it needs to be a scientific paper, it needs to be peer reviewed, it needs to be related to military. So you want to give it those different guidelines like that, but don't give it any more than it needs. Let it do its work, let it do the rest for you, and you'll be impressed with it.
Yeah, I've had very good results with it. I asked it about a lot of different technologies and Havana syndrome, and it answered very well. But when you get into specific names and such, they avoid answering you. So it's definitely got filters in it, and of course they will not let you talk about controversial subjects on it. That will be filtered out too. So you have to be specific and make sure you don't go outside of the normal social norms, because it's programmed that way. It won't let you go out of the norm or out of the box, per se.
And I saw something seen for the first time as well coming out of the Russian research, which was I don't generally see people who are attacked by these kinds of technologies referred to as targeted individuals. For me, that experience has been like a community thing. That's how people refer to themselves. But interestingly enough, in the Russian research, they actually use that term. They actually use that terminology. So they actually do refer to people as targeted individuals that are the targets of these technologies. I'm not sure, if that's anything more than coincidence at this point, but that's the first time I've actually seen it mentioned that at the military level that they actually use the targeted individual reference.
That's incredible. So, Jax, did you want to talk about what topic we discussed earlier?
Well, David was doing pretty good.
We'll go with David, and then we have Q&A if people want to ask questions. Go in line, and we'll answer your questions tonight. So.
Yeah, if it comes up about certain topics, I was going to respond with some information about a guy who's doing what David is doing now, except he did not have a computer. He was helping people with blocking these frequencies by logging into their phone or their laptops. And I could tell you guys a little bit about it and how much it cost. But based on that, you are getting a deal and a steal with David, because David is able to do something that I know about in my industry, because a person who can design software and then also design the hardware is an unusual skill. It's hard to find a person who can do both very well, and David has done that. Now, that is one of the first things. That's why we're seeing this device. But the person who came before David was not able to do that. He only knew the software, and you won't believe how much he charged. Does anybody want to guess?
I have no idea. Can you let us know? Because I know, but I have to pretend like I'm dumb. So.
Well, he charged $1,000 a month.
Oh, good Lord! That's a car payment.
It's a house payment. Are you kidding? It's okay.
I used to have a house that was $786 a month. You're right.
It's a house payment. Okay, but David has managed to put the technology in a computer, and then he logs in, and after you buy the Cyber Shield for $2,900, he logs in for the remainder of the life of your device. And if you buy another device, he doesn't charge more. He if you have multiple cyber shields, he will log into all of them and update them for just the cost of the cyber shield. Now, in my business, he's kind of cheating himself because at Langineers we do the same thing. We sell the hardware, but we charge a service fee every month. David doesn't do that. And I just want people to know, if you knew about computers and you worked in this industry, you would get it. You would see why this is such a phenomenal deal and how it helps us. But Maheladeck is the name of the guy who used to charge $1,000 a month. He did it for a year. And I've talked to old timers in the TI world who signed up for him, and the reason was they had nothing else, and they were trying to save their lives. They were in different industries. Most of these people who had paid Maheladeck $1,000 a month had their own company, so they had some income, but they didn't consider it that it was an option. They said, I can't work if I can't get this stuff to stop. So Maheladeck charged $1,000 a month for a year. He had about a dozen clients, so that's $120,000 a month times 12. That's how much he made. He lives in Brazil. At the time he was in San Jose State University, and when he got done and he got the money after a year, he only charged it by month as people were able to afford it, and he quit. He just disappeared. He did say, I'm not going to do this anymore. He let people know, and he disappeared. Now, if he had had a computer like David, he could have stayed in business, and he could have charged less money. So I just want people to know, when we grumble and we say, oh, that's too much, you've got to know what it is you're getting. If you knew that, you're getting a deal, because David is not charging any kind of services after you buy the Cyber Shield. He's there at your beck and call. He's basically my indentured servant. And I don't like to say that, but that's what he has chosen to be. But he's hoping that other people will catch on to this, and it's the only thing that works. I have tried it all, and I had the money to buy it all, and none of it worked. None of it worked until the Cyber Shield. And so I think, though, that I've heard about the double juggernaut and the silent night, and I don't know about it myself, but I know some people who have the Cyber Shield who bought the double juggernaut and or the silent night because they wanted to get protection from both ends, the V2K and the physical. The Cyber Shield is a very good device for the physical, which is what I am haunted by, just horrible physical pain, but I also get the fray effect and lots of other physical attacks. So David, did you want to ask a question or anything about this Maheladeck guy and what he was charging, or have any comments?
I mean, you kind of talked to me about it before, so I mean, I'm not entirely familiar with what all he was actually doing, other than I heard, he used to charge quite a bit of money for people, and I mean, apparently whatever he was doing must have had some kind of an effect because people were paying it. But I'm not fully familiar with what it is he had actually accomplished. And what took so much work there.
Yeah, well, he had to go in individually. Imagine, he only had up to 12. He could not take more than 12 because he only had so much time, and it was exhausting because he had to go in every single day and multiple times a day to help these people, and he got sick of it, and he wore himself out. And I mean, he got a lot of money. He worked his butt off, but that kind of commitment takes its toll physically. I know that from working with other people in the high-tech industry who work 24/7. They live and breathe the technology, and they end up aging prematurely. They get all kinds of health problems. Even if Elon Musk gives them a bed in an office, that doesn't compensate for having a life, a wife, kids, family. You can't sacrifice everything to do what we do. So that's why your device, David, is cutting edge. You're the first person who has been able to create a device that you can log into and give us updates and not be a slave 24/7, even though you are.
I don't want to interrupt, but we have some news. Cyber Shield has a commercial now. This is the first version, and we're going to debut it tonight. Do you mind, Jax?
Sure, go ahead.
This is cybershieldinfo.com. We manufacture a shielding device that protects the body and head from harmful ionizing electromagnetic frequencies. This is the most powerful high-end shielding device made specifically for targeted individuals who are assaulted with harmful radiation and pain. Do you want to feel better? We also offer complimentary in-person demonstrations in the San Francisco Bay Area. For photos, pricing, and more details, visit cybershieldinfo.com.
Well, thank you, Mr. Announcer. The chat room wants David to talk for a little bit, but we're running out of time, so we're going to go to Q&A mode. So if you want to talk to David, can you hit *6 and queue up, and we'll get to you. First one in line is up here right now. So if that's okay with you, David, can we have people ask questions? Okay,
sure.
very good.
I wanted to throw one comment out there too, just really fast before we jump in something, because some Jax had mentioned about how much somebody needs to know. It's pretty impressive actually how much you need to know to work on a solution against this stuff. You basically need to be working with the same kind of knowledge that the entire team you're against has. So myself, I've been learning a lot of advanced stuff since I was a little kid. I started learning electronics, electrical engineering, and computer programming at the same time when I was around 11 years old. I've always loved physics and science. I've been learning that stuff. I've been learning physics since around the same time. So thankfully for me, it was just the way that my life worked out. I'm a lifelong learner and academic. I've always been learning. I love learning as much as I can, all the different advanced topics out there. So, that's the only reason I'm even capable of doing this solution, because it really is a lot of work. There's a lot of complexity to it, to be able to not only, design a system and piece it together, but to understand the different sciences that go into it, such as, from RF engineering, but then we're looking at applying neuroscience. There's biology that goes into it. So it's quite an undertaking. So, those of us in the community, the people who are actually doing some research and working on some different scientific solutions, definitely everybody like that, deserves an applause, because it's not something you can't sit down and learn one thing and be able to understand or accomplish anything against that. It takes special people to sort of, all the other special people out there who are working on this, great job, and keep it up.
Thank you. Well, one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm 17% into my technician's license for ham, so I'll be learning more RF tricks. I grew up with CB radios and ham, but I wasn't licensed on ham. So I'll be going back, and I'm going to take that license hopefully in the year. It's only $35 after you study. So, if you don't,
and that's great.
Pass, you don't
and you
pay.
Learn, and you learn stuff in that you realize, because we hear people in the community talking about certain things when they talk about like ionospheric bounces and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll be able to talk. I'll be able to bounce off.
Understand what that is. They
I'll
think
be
there's
able to.
like little spears being sent down, getting into your skin and everything, and like, oh, well, as a
Right.
ham operator, you understand exactly what that is, and that's why it's great for people to have these kind of knowledges and skill sets because
And I'll be able
we're
to
able
talk
to take that information and understand.
I'll be able to share it with you and others when I learn and pass. I can talk to the International Space Station with my radio. I'll be able to talk to satellites, control remote devices, even aircraft and drones. So it's quite amazing what ham has to offer. I'm first getting the technician's license at the beginning.
You have to know Morse code. I can play Morse. I know.
I don't have. Yeah, they don't make you. They don't make you learn Morse code anymore.
You're kidding.
Yeah, they quit doing that. It's too hard for people. They have an automatic generator now that does it for you.
Did it da da da? Did it da da da?
Yeah, they have a specific frequency for that still for people that want to do CW is what it's called.
Oh, CW. Okay, didn't know that.
But yeah, that's my goal is to help the community because people always bring up ham radio operators, so I better learn more about it. It's been on my list for 40 years.
And at some point later on down the road, then after you have it, know enough, maybe we could talk about some really crazy stuff, like maybe we were trying to use the AM repeater network to create a nationwide or worldwide heterodyne effective protection.
Yeah, AM is more warm and will probably absorb better. FM is choppy, and of course it's not based. The volume of the audio isn't based on the signal, whereas AM is always going by our opposite. AM is a signal only by its voice, and the carrier signals on FM. So it's two different things.
Power level dependent versus frequency.
Yeah, it's amplitude modulation. So yeah, so we'll work that. So let's go and see if we got any questions from the audience. 818638 area code. You're up next. Come on in. I'm talking to David Rubel. Hello, are you there? No. Well, let's go down and see who's next. Jen, are you available? Jen Timmerman.
I'm here, right here.
There you are. Go ahead, Jen. Come on in.
I encountered a woman on last night, PAX call, who was describing infrasound, and she put out things like the sparks of light, lasers, different sounds, and I get extremely cybernetically sucked in. And anyway, her opinion was that I needed to identify infrasound, but her descriptions got really complicated, like getting an electric engineer to take measurements. And
do you know how much that would cost you?
Well, yeah, she was complaining that she really got ripped off. And can you get the health department involved with?
Did you have a question for David?
Yeah. Well, my biggest question is: would living in a steel building cut down your harassment? I believe that you can get a tiny house made out of steel, and I sort of have a headset to accomplish this because I really need to get out of this area I'm in. There's, the fireman department's down the street, and there's a huge cell tower.
Well, I have just not to interrupt David, but I have an aluminum house that's an older mobile home, and I can't even get a cell phone signal to come in, but I still hear the V2K comes in through the holes. David, did you want to answer her?
Yeah. What about steel? What about steel?
So ultimately, if you want to talk about using a metal to block wireless signal, copper is ultimately the best. With MU copper being the gold standard, having both RF and magnetic blocking capabilities. As far as steel or aluminum, what it really boils down to is the thickness of the steel or the aluminum as far as the effect that it's going to have. So steel and aluminum have different decibel amounts for attenuation in different frequency ranges, but it's all thickness based. So you could have thicker steel that would do just as well as thinner aluminum, or can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it sounded like my earbud was cutting out for a moment there. So ultimately, it's going to depend on the thickness and how much signal you're trying to attenuate. So really, we know we have to attenuate potentially over 125 decibels, and that number is arrived at because we know that a world-class MRI room is not shielded enough to block the signals, that prey effect can still get through at that point. The reason for that is, what we have to understand about the physics of radio frequency is it's actually similar to what you understand about light. And what I mean by that is you can hold up a piece of paper, you can hold it up to a light, and certain paper, that light won't be able to shine through it. Certain paper, the light will be able to shine through it. So it depends on the thickness of the paper. But then, if you go and you get thick enough paper to block the light, you can actually then go to the other end of the table, and you can turn up the brightness on the light, and then all of a sudden you can get some of that light shining through the paper again, especially if we're talking about using like a laser for a source. You can get that light to travel through incredibly thick things. Well, RF.
Thank you for that, Dave. I don't want to be rude, but we need to go to the next question, if that's okay, Jen?
Yeah,
okay.
That's fine.
Jen, you got my email. Send me an email to remind me to follow up with you, and I can get a personalized
that would be
email
great if you could.
Yeah, that would be great for me. Really.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jen. And let's go to the next person here. It looks like D is in the house. A person named D, are you here? D, you're on the air. What's up?
I'm not
Oh, you don't want to be on the air?
It was an accident.
Well, have a nice day, sir. Michelle Burns, you're up next. Come on in, Michelle Burns. Hello, Michelle. You're on the air.
Hi, DJ, Chris, and David.
Hey,
I
Michelle.
just want to say hi. I just want to say, David, that the new modules that you put on the Cyber Shield regarding audio have helped me tremendously. It has made such a huge difference in the V2K. It's incredible. It doesn't silence it 100%, but like up in the 90s, like 95%, I would say, easily, sometimes more. And that is huge for me. Absolutely huge.
That's incredible, and that makes me really happy to hear.
It makes me really
like
happy
you
too.
getting results like that. Because that's like to get rid of 95% or more of your V2K.
It's
I
huge.
mean, that is life changing.
That's
not a small impact. And I know, specifically in your case, guys, I know Michelle. I've known her for a while, and she deals with a lot of V2K, and I think some of it for a while, I think you didn't even realize was V2K, that you thought it was actually some people around you, and I think some of this probably helps bring the light, like, oh my God, it was V2K. I wasn't listening to real people outside the window.
Exactly.
It was V2K the whole time.
Well, you know,
so
people tell you that. They'll go, yeah, they'll tell you it's all fake, and you're like, yeah, but they know this and this and this, and they seem to know what's going on, but no, it's made a big difference, and I can't wait till I get my other Cyber Shield back, so that I can have that on the auditory and then the other for the physical attacks, because of course those are still happening.
No, that's awesome. And for what Michelle's referring to is some of the new modules that we've been working on developing in counterpart with an AI researcher we have that's named itself Omni, and it's what's helping me with doing a lot of this research into the Chinese and Russian military research surrounding all this kind of technology. And that's, what the module she's talking about is the culmination of the beginnings of that research, and we're really starting to make some breakthroughs with it. And I mean, it's nothing short of impressive for the people like Michelle that it's helping. I mean,
great. That's super to hear. Thank you, Michelle, for calling in.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. Thank you, DJ Chris.
No worries. We're going to go to the next caller. It looks like Katie. Is this my Katie? We'll find out. Katie, you're up. Katie, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hello, Katie. What's up? I hear you.
I just had a question. Since in the last few months, they started shooting a light into my eyeballs, and I'm getting pain in the back of my eyes, and I was just wondering if that's something specifically like that the Cyber Shield could help with if they're trying to shoot at my eyeballs.
Just to be clear, you're talking about where you get the quick bright flash of light and it feels like your eyes being electrocuted.
Well, I can feel it pulsing on low all day long, and then sometimes at night I can see literal flashes of light, and it's after several months of the light, now it's starting to be painful, like my eyes are burning towards the end of the day. And my dog just recently passed, and he went blind before he went, and I'm scared to death. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, would this help at all?
So yeah, the equipment does help with a lot of the different artifacts like that. Things going on with the eyes, around the nasal cavity as well, as far as the pressure, the pulsing, the flashes, the pain. Some of the normal modules handle that exceptionally well. Matter of fact, I mean, that's an issue that I know several of my users have had at one point, but I don't think anybody complains to me about that one anymore, and I haven't experienced that myself in a long time. So I think that might be one of the areas that we might kind of have, nipped in the butt and might be taken care of completely. I don't want to say that with 100% certainty, but pretty close, because if one of my users is still having, or one of my clients is still having that problem, I would definitely like to hear from them, because I think that's something we've got taken care of. So yeah, there's a lot of different physical effects like that we pretty much can alleviate and get rid of, especially when it comes to like the headaches and things like that. Some of the disorientation and things that are really disruptive that a lot of people go through is some of the bread and butter that the equipment seems to handle really well, so that people are actually able to, focus on their lives and their work and be able to do what they need to do without these kind of attacks and these kind of things happening and just, taken away and distracting to the point where they're becoming dysfunctional.
Did that help you, Katie? We need to go to the next caller, please.
Yeah, so for sure you've treated people who have had eyes shot at?
Yes, and I've had that issue myself in the past. I've personally had that issue.
Okay.
And yeah, that's a painful thing to happen. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Cool. Well, I'll hurry up and try to buy one as soon as I can. I will hurry.
Okay, Katie, thank you. Next in line is Christopher Mack. You're on the air. Come on in. Christopher Mack, hello.
Hi, this is Tina Mack.
Tina Mack.
What I want, Mac, I am kind of new of learning about everything that's going on. I'm a new victim, but I started experiencing like some kind of sharp shots of some sort going up through my feet besides what I have going on in my ears with these frequencies. And I'm getting to the point now where my eyes are literally popping out of my head. My nose is always swollen. My sinuses are swollen. And I'm always having to take nose spray every day of the year. What I wanted to know is, do I need to buy 2 different machines based on what I'm hearing tonight? And also, will you take gold as payment? Or silver?
That's an interesting question. I don't really have any experience in any kind of trading of commodities myself or anything like that. So I mean, I would probably have to, like, if you wrote me an email, I'd have to probably ask you a few questions and look into a couple things to see, how possible and realistic that would be for me, as far as that goes. But if you want to go to the website cybershieldinfo.com and shoot Jackson email on there, and she can give you my email address. That might be one of the easiest ways to get it for you. Otherwise, it's drubel, like my last name, drubel, RUBLE 81 at gmail.com.
Hold on one second. My pen ran out of ink. drubel,
like David Rubel, RUBLE 81 at gmail.com. And we can.
Oh, where'd I go?
Otherwise, as far as needing more than one shield or not, so it depends on the user. Some of the clients, they're perfectly fine using one single device. Others prefer to have 2. So I wouldn't say necessarily. I wouldn't go and say that you necessarily need to, but it would be kind of a thing like maybe if you were going to order one, you'd know within your first couple weeks if you wanted or needed a second. I don't know that you'd need a second though, but some people do prefer to run more than one. And
David, I could comment on that.
So Jax can comment, I guess, if she wants to. Jax has 3 shields herself, and she'll run multiple at times, but for different reasons and different strategies. So I'll let you comment really quick.
Well, the primary reason I bought my second Cyber Shield was because I didn't want to be without one in case the first one broke. That's just, 1 and 1 equals 2 there. So I got the second one and I kept it on, and I did notice some things temporarily, like I had a setting 35 over 4200, normal on one machine, 35 over 4200, quad heterodyne on the second machine, and I had them spaced out from opposite ends of the house. That worked for 2 weeks, but honestly, when you look at the cost and the hassle of just keeping up with 2 of them, I think 1 does the job. I have turned the 2 of the others off, and I tried running 3, and what I noticed is if I was in a room where I had 1 Cyber Shield, I would get the effects of that setting. Then when I'd go into another room where I had the second Cyber Shield on, I would have it always on a different setting, as David recommended. Then I would only fill that setting. So it's better to just get one cyber shield and use that one, especially if you don't have the money. And then as you use it, you'll be able to appreciate what it does, and then you can make an educated decision about whether or not you want to buy a second one. I don't think 3 is important. I don't think you need it. I have a big house. I could use 2 if I wanted to, but I prefer 1. It's life is simpler. Keep it simple, Sam. And I
That's what
prefer
I
1.
say, yeah. Well, thank you, Jax, for that. David and the caller,
Yeah,
we're going to go to the next person in line, if you don't mind. Thank you, the Mac family. You can go ahead and email him and go further. Let's go to the next person in line. Silver and gold. Boy, I've never had that kind of offer before. That's pretty cool. Here we go, wireless caller 863. Yeah, David. Here we go. You're live on the air. Hello. You're live on the air, caller. Come on in.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering, does your equipment cover forced speech?
Yes. So it's another one of those areas, like kind of like Michelle was talking about with her V2K coverage, that's wiping out, about 95% of her V2K. It's the same thing with the forced speech. It's wiping out close to 100%. I'd say every now and then it feels like something kind of sneaks just a little bit by, but nothing like the full effect that it ever was. But for the most part, yeah, it's helping greatly with that. And I was actually having experiences with that a few months back before some of the more recent upgrades and updates that we did. And I know exactly how, I don't feel like annoying is a strong enough word for it. It's more than that. It's disruptive. And with the changes that have been made lately, I haven't noticed any problems with that anymore, except like a little hiccup every once in a blue moon. If anybody else is having any issues with that, I haven't heard any reports of it from any of my users of that going on anymore. But generally, yes, that's one of the things that it can help with immensely, especially things that you're going to feel like in your chest and throat. So I know some people have issues as well with the tightness of the lungs, where it feels like it's a little more like it's difficult to breathe, like your chest is swelling up, things like that. They're all kind of related to that forced speech that you're talking about. It's actually a layered attack. There's several different things going on at once where they're trying to create that sensation for you that, as you're breathing out, they're running V2K along with it. And they try to make it feel like you're actually speaking. And I know for some people, there's enough in the attack that it actually makes that connection, and people accidentally get audible at times and might actually make some sound or say a word or something. Just to be clear, that I was talking about the same thing that you're talking about. But yes, it greatly impacts that.
Thank you, David, for that. We need to go to the next caller, if you don't mind. Thank you for your call. And we're going to come to Harmony. You're on the air.
Hi, David. Hi, Jax. I've been a TI for 15 years, and they've done pretty much everything under the sun to me. Recently, they have been moving my body parts, like right before I go to sleep. My hands will move, my legs will move once they flip me over in the bed. And the last several nights, they have been it's like these pulses of air are running through my skull and right beside my ear. And I've had B2K for 15 years, but anyway, this lately has been happening with my body parts moving, and I was just wondering if the Cyber Shield, which I bought it, by the way, and so I'm excited to get it.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's another new client on the phone there. You and Jennifer as well.
Oh, great! Yes, I'm so excited. Just over the last, I know this sounds really ridiculous, but I only found out that there was a whole targeted community about 2 months ago. They had me believing that I deserved what they were doing to me, and I somehow survived and found Jax.
That's great. That's great because that's that transition before you make that transition into the realization of what is really going on and who isn't involved. That's an important life lesson for every TI. The most important lesson that you will learn in your journeys as a TI is when you reach the moment where you actually learn who isn't involved in your attacks. Is very important because it's life-changing. It changes everything. A lot of people mess up before they get to that point, and they could get involved with law enforcement and say a lot of the wrong things because they misunderstand who's involved, what's going on, what's really happening, and it really messes up people's lives. So to be able to get to that point to where you can say, okay, I learned what it isn't and who it isn't, and then I learned about all this stuff. That's an important milestone. As far as what you're going through, yeah, we should definitely be able to get you some help on all that stuff. And I think some of the new modules we have even that have been getting amazing feedback and results from a lot of the users should definitely be able to help as well. So, with some of the new stuff, I don't want to quote that too heavily yet as saying like, well, I know the new stuff for sure is going to help you, but I'm pretty confident that the new stuff is going to help even better than the old stuff, which we're always updating as well, and that would have helped you. So I think that all around, like some of what you're talking about, for example, we have the new BAP screen, and you have some very customized protections in there, and one of them you can select is the motor cortex, and that, of course, is going to be involved with a lot of muscle movement, whether it's, voluntary or involuntary, and it should be able to help you, alleviate a lot of that, if not all of it.
Yeah, my associate, when I work with Romola, my associate Chris, I forgot his last name, start with a B, Barton or Bard something. Anyway, he got the force movements, and I got the force speech. So thank you, David. Thank you, everybody. That's the end of our Q&A session. We're going to switch now. You can hang on, David and Jax. We're just going to do a quick TI Book Club event right now because we're running a little late. So please stand by, and I appreciate it. It is now time for the TI Book Club.
It's time for the TI Book Club, where every book opens a door to new worlds and shared journeys. Here, we uncover hidden gems, specially selected for TIs, and always within your reach. Be part of a community that reads together, grows together, and sees the world through the same lens. Don't just listen to stories, live them with us. Join now at bookclubs.com/TIBookClub/join, and let's turn the pages of adventure together.
Well, thank you, Mr. Announcer. This week's book is by Dr. Nick Begich. It's called Controlling the Human Mind, the Technologies of Political Control, or Tools for Peak Performance. And I read a third of the book this week, and they talked a lot about how our bodies have liquid crystal in them, and that we actually are like an antenna and do resonate like the Earth. And unfortunately, they've figured out how to hack us through remote technology, and they've learned how to hack the frequencies, including our sacral chakra. So that's this week's book, and check it out if you are interested in joining the book club. Now's the time. It's free, and we are at 178 members in good standing. And that's about all I have for the recording. Be sure to click like, subscribe, and make a comment on the video on your favorite platform. And again, thank you, Jackson and David, for your time. And I'll go ahead and go into open mic mode now. The recording is now ending.